Hello guys, my name is Raza Masood. Today we will discuss stakeholder management. Guys, it's a very interesting topic with respect to project management, and so let's start our tutorial. What is basically stakeholder management? Guys, first of all, we would see that what is the definition of a stakeholder. Stakeholder is someone whose interest may be positively or negatively impacted by the project. Guys, this is the basic definition of a stakeholder. What does that mean? Basically, if you are making a software project and any person who is basically involved, whose interests are impacted by this software development, who he is basically a stakeholder for your project. For example, the team, project team, the customer, project manager, any regulatory authority, any person or any software developer, software manager, the company, the vendor, the customer, all these persons are basically comes under this definition of stakeholder. Let me tell you one more thing, that if any person's interest is negatively impacting, he is also the stakeholder. For example, if any person who is doing the things manually and you are automating the system in any bank, so the person will definitely not want that this system should be implemented, so because his interest would be impacted negatively. So this person whose interests are negatively impacting, he is also a stakeholder for your project. So remember, any person who is impacting negatively or positively impacting from your project, he is basically a stakeholder for your project. So one more thing, that stakeholder management. Guys, nowadays things are moving towards stakeholder engagement rather than a stakeholder management, because see, management is basically some sort of uh, other sort of word. Like stakeholder engagement is now more inclined, is now more popular. Like you have to engage your stakeholder, you have to consult, you have to discuss, you have to understand your stakeholder, rather than you have to manage a stakeholder. Because managing means, like for example, any person, every person has their own opinion, their own feedback. So you can't dictate any person, you can't dictate any stakeholder that you have to do this thing. You have to engage properly your stakeholder. So remember this thing, that nowadays stakeholder engagement of a stakeholder is more important rather than management. So you have to see, you have to learn that how you can engage properly your stakeholder. This is more important thing rather than managing the stakeholder. So the process for stakeholder engagement, what is basically the how we can engage our stakeholder. First, you have to identify who are basically their stakeholders, who are the persons who are basically positively or negatively impacting from your projects. They can be your the customer, they can be any regulatory authority, your project team, etc. So first you have to identify who are basically the persons whose interests are basically positively or negatively impacting from the project. First, you just need to list down, you need to identify the main stakeholder. These stakeholders can be internal, like from your company, or can be external from customer side, or any from any regulatory authority as well. So first you have to identify the stakeholder, then analyze the stakeholder. Analyze means that for then you, after identification of stakeholders, you have to understand the requirement of a stakeholder. You have to understand the priority of a stakeholder, whose stakeholders are more important and what are their requirements, what are their expectations, what are their priorities for project. So after identification, the second step is that you have to analyze. After that analyzation, you have to plan that how you can engage your stakeholder. This is more important, most important, that you should have a plan. After planning, you have to execute the plan, that how you can engage properly your stakeholders. And after execution, you have to review that how things are going and what improvements you have made. Then so identify, analyze, plan, action and review. This is the steps.